back with QC SportsNet. We have a full house for this one because all four Metro teams are facing each other this week. So we'll start out with UT and Rock Island, and I'll start out with Joe Winkle from the UT voice right here. Another loss where it was a second half lead that was not kept. What can UT do against Rock Island to hold on to a lead?
Well, first off, I want to say it's nice to all be here together. Look at us. We're out here. We're living. Yeah, it's another day, another dollar with UT, right? It's tough. They've played 15 games in the last 2 years. They've lost a third of those games by 3 points or less. You literally couldn't write it, but here we are. So at the end of the day, here's where it's at, man, for United Township football. They have 3 games left. They go 2-1. They break a 25-year playoff drought. And then you see what can happen. They're heavily favored in 2 games. That's just the truth. There's a game they play week 8 they will be an underdog in because the team that they play has been the best team in the conference so far. I expect that game to be very tight and competitive because that's what every Moline UT game has been like pretty much outside of like 1 or 2 years since Nick Welch got to UT. So the thing that they just have to worry about right now is handling business. They go on the road, a place that they finally beat Rock Island under Nick Welch last year, but they haven't won at Rocky, and they have some pretty scarring losses in that building, especially from a couple of years ago. We were both there. We both saw it. It was both not fun for me, fun for that guy, and that guy being Ken Jacoby. But at the end of the day, right now for UT, they just got to handle their business, and if they're able to do that, I think Friday should go well for them. But yeah, it's tough. I've ran out of words to describe the last year and a half. It should have been different, but it hasn't. But at the end of the day, as long as they handle their business, they're fine. And they're still a team that I think not many people want to play because in all of these, they've gotten blown out once in all these games, and it was against a pretty darn Quincy team last year. They're a team that if they handle their business and get in, we'll talk about that when we get there, but they're a team that I'm sure no one's going to be circling on their calendar lining up to play, that's for sure.
I can feel that pain just soaking over here. Ken, you mentioned the win last time for Rocky at home against UT, so what's going to make it a great Friday night for you at Voice of the Rocks?
So that was 2 years ago at Rocky, and the Rocks needed a couple of pick sixes in order to beat UT and deprive them of a playoff berth. Because without that loss, UT would have been in, okay? So, huge swing there in that game. Now, 2 years further on, I think UT is better than they were 2 years ago. I think Rock Island is probably, objectively based on what we see on the field, not as good as they were 2 years ago. Now, I think Rocky's better than they were at the beginning of the season, but they still got completely crushed by Moline last week. So how much improvement have they made? It's hard to say. They're starting to get some headway offensively. They're getting a little more creative with their playbook as the season has gone on. A lot of times that's comfort zone for the guys that are running the plays. The more comfortable they get with the basic ones, now you can expand that playbook, and they have. So they've gotten kind of creative. They've done some different things and been able to make some more headway offensively. What's that going to mean against UT? Hard to say. Can they be competitive in that game for a while? Do they have, really good grounds to say, well, maybe they can get the upset win? I mean, you never know on a Friday night. You've seen enough to know almost anything can happen. I would still have to say, when you talk about taking care of business for UT, they certainly are heavily favored at Rock Island Public School Stadium.
And to add on to that, I think what UT has to do, the one thing from last week's game that was a little bit shocking is that the game was so out of hand so fast against Moline. I thought Rocky, knowing their big rivalry game, it's their biggest game of the year, coming off of their win against Ullman. I guess just from afar, I thought that it would be a little more
5 turnovers, including a block punt for a touchdown in the first series.
Does not help.
No, it does not help. They took this big mountain to climb, and they turned it into Everest in the first quarter.
So now UT's job is is to continue to make that mountain even larger. I think UT's got a lot of anger and frustration that they want to let out, but they're still you still got to go, like I said, they got to handle their business. They got to do what they got to do in front of them, and they got to win in a place that they haven't won at before under Nick Welch. So that's something, and they're battling a lot of attrition right now as well. So if get in, get the job done, doesn't matter how. That's really kind of where it's at for United Township. But I think I'm sure you'll even say too, if UT can start well, to just plant the seed of doubt. When you're a team like Rock Island, if you get the seed of doubt planted early, sometimes it's hard to bounce back from. But also a team like that can build off confidence. So for UT, they have, in all of these games that they've been losing here over this last third stretch, they've started well. They've had leads in all of them. So they can't revert and have a bad start to allow Rocky to have confidence on Friday night. I think that first 6 to 8 minutes is going to be incredibly important.